is up, fight fans? Welcome to the DenverSportsBetting.com MMA preview show powered by the MMA Plug. Check them out at MMAplug.com. I'm Ron Kruck. I am the play-by-play man for the Legacy Fighting Alliance on UFC Fight Pass, joined, as always, by my partner, Colorado MMA journalist, Jordan Kurtz. Jordan, what is happening, my man?
Ron, I'm so glad that we're finally having a little bit of warm weather here in the Rocky Mountains this last week of teen-digit temperatures. A little bit too cold for my liking. But the nice thing is we have some red-hot action coming into the octagon this weekend.
Exactly right. Speak for yourself, though, buddy. I'm here in Kansas. It's a little chilly between the sleet and the rain. It doesn't even know what it wants to do out here. It's just kind of rain. It's kind of snow. But it's overall just sucky.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I envy that position too much out there with that.
I promise I won't bring it back for, when I come home. But we're out here for LFA number 94, the end of phase 3 of the Legacy Fighting Alliance reboots. We got a great main event. Check it out on UFC Fight Pass tomorrow night. Lupita Godinez making her LFA debut against the little monster, Vanessa Demopoulos. The strawweight title is on the line. So we're pumped for that, but you're exactly right, Jordan. We got more fights. What a week it is. You know, I said last week before we look ahead that no one goes undefeated in MMA, and apparently I was wrong. The champ, Khabib Nurmagomedov, once again successfully defends his title, taking out Justin Gaethje. Then he leaves his gloves, Jordan, in the octagon, retires unbeaten at 29-0. Really a surreal scene in the octagon. Your take before we look ahead?
You know, I personally think that is the last time that we saw Khabib Nurmagomedov in there. I think that his retirement is different than the rest of, shall I say, the most recent contemporary retirements for most of the big figures out there. When Henry Cejudo did it in the octagon, that felt more like a contract grab or a contract negotiation situation. When Khabib made the comment that he spoke with his mother and said that was his word to her,
right,
I believed him in that moment. We have never known Khabib to be a guy to go back on his word or to sell a wolf ticket in any sort of way. So I think that was the last that we saw, and it was arguably his greatest performance to date. I personally had it wrong. I thought that there were so many things that were swirling around him that were, I guess, forecasting a potential upset, and he just went and proved all of that wrong.
Yeah, it was an incredible way to end what a phenomenal career he has had. I mean, Gaethje comes in just on fire. Great timing, in my opinion, to catch Nurmagomedov, who just, lost his father, who had been in his corner and in his training camps for all these years. You didn't know how the Russian would react, but he reacted in true Nurmagomedov fashion, taking care of business, and then dedicating it to his father. I'll never forget. It was very emotional to see that, leaving the gloves in the octagon for the last time, and a very cool way and surreal scene, as I said, to see him walk off. But, a great way to end UFC 254, and really a true, champion in every sense of the word. And, building on that theme, Jordan, now we look ahead at UFC Fight Night, Hall versus Silva. And before we break it down, of course, our show is sponsored by DenverSportsBetting.com, your one-stop shop for all Colorado sports. Now that sports gaming is legal in the state of Colorado, you got to be prepared. Check out DenverSportsBetting.com for wager advice, previews, and picks. And that's what we are doing. On that theme, Jordan, this week, one of the GOATs returns to the octagon this Saturday for one more fight before he rides off into the sunset as well. Former middleweight kingpin Anderson Silva will fight for what he has said the last time inside the octagon when he meets Uriah Hall, a season 17 veteran of the Ultimate Fighter and the number 10 ranked middleweight. Action goes down on ESPN Plus. Rare Halloween fight card, Jordan, as they return back to Vegas in the Apex. The entire event can be seen on ESPN Plus. Preliminary action beginning 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 Mountain, main card kicking off 7 Eastern. That will be 5 in the Mountain time zone. All right, let's break down this main event. Main event breakdown is sponsored by the 3070 Sports Bar and Grill, located in Westminster. Come check it out. The 3070 Sports Bar. Try their Golfer's Delight. They also have 420 Vegas bombs. Check them out. They are located on West 120th in Westminster. All right, the current odds, of course, coming in as of this recording from denversportsbetting.com and Bet Rivers. Uriah Hall, he is your favorite. He comes in, sorry, Jordan, just updating right now. He comes in at a minus 220. The comeback on the legend, Anderson Silva, is plus 190. So the legend is the underdog. And quickly get to betrivers.com right now if you want to lay money on this fight. New signups, enter the promo code DSB250, Denver Sports Betting 250, and get 100% match up bonus up to $250. That's Denver Sports Betting and betrivers.com. All right, Jordan. Well, what an incredible run it's been for the champion. I mean, it began back in 2006 with a first-round knockout of Rich Franklin. That was UFC 64. Crazy. And the Spider Anderson Silva would then reign as middleweight champion for the next 14 fights, becoming the longest reigning champion in UFC history and really the greatest middleweight in the world for nearly a decade. On the flip side, let's not look past Uriah Hall. We were first introduced to him on Tough 17. He scored some devastating finishes. I mean, I remember the spinning heel hook knockout of Amsela, which one of the most vicious in the show's history. I think Dana White even called it that. But he would lose to Kevin Gastelum in the Tough finale. Jordan, this fight was supposed to happen 4 years ago, but better late than never. We got it. It's Hall versus Silva. Give us your thoughts on the main event.
Well, so before we had the current champion, Israel Adesanya, who is billed as kind of this second coming of Anderson, there was a man named Uriah Hall, and he was coached by Uncle Chael P. Sonnen on The Ultimate Fighter. After one of those devastating knockouts, Chael pulled him right to the side as they were looking at the carnage that was still unconscious on the canvas. And Chael told him right then and there, "You're a contender for the title right now." So that was the first basically coming out party to the world that Uriah Hall had as this elite high-level striker. Right. I think that we're going to see some elements of that mirror match that we saw down in what was it, Australia? Was it at Marvel Stadium when Anderson and Israel fought? Yeah, so we're going to see some similarities, I think, as far as how they will at times almost mirror each other within the style in which they'll choose to engage. I think that you obviously have Uriah, who is more in his prime years. I mean, Anderson is now in his mid-40s. He's got a lot of mileage on the body, has had some extremely significant injuries that have had to require years off to be able to repair at times, a la the Chris Weidman, when his knee just completely, when his leg had the compound fracture, and then the Cannonier fight where his ACL was just basically ripped to shreds from those leg kicks. With Anderson having such a high level of movement and the ability to go side to side and just kind of have that constant circle going about his opponents with his counter game, because he's a huge counter striker, you wonder how that knee damage this late in his career is going to impact his ability to evade some of those explosive strikes from a guy like Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall is a guy that I feel like it's always the question of which Uriah are we going to see in the octagon.
100%. Yep.
This is a guy who has spoke throughout his career of dealing with having cases of the yips. He's dealt with mental health struggles since the time when he was a young kid getting bullied when he moved to America from Jamaica. This is a guy who has all of the tools to be one of the most elite contenders within the division. It's a matter of what can he do to put it all together on a consistent basis. Obviously, his ground game is the deficiency in the equation, but his striking more than makes up for that. The tail of the tail for me is going to be, what Uriah do we see? Do we see the dialed in Uriah? If we do, it might be a tough last fight in the UFC for Anderson Silva. Notice how I said last fight in the UFC. ... Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, for a Hall, the 36-year-old Jamaican, listen, he exploded onto the UFC scene, winning 3 of his first 4 UFC fights, but then he's really struggled against top-tier fighters, losing to guys like Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa. 8-7 UFC record, Jordan. Really a roller coaster. He's been on 3-fight win streaks. He's been on 3-fight losing streaks. And at this point right now, he has won back-to-back fights. Has, that roller coaster ride come to an end? He's got up to ranked number 10. And once again, this just proves to me, if he can get a win, make his 3rd straight, maybe he has put those issues behind him, and this will put him into title contention. He's been a fixture really in the top 15 for the past few years, but just consistency, man, that has been the issue. Every time you think that he is just has gotten things going on, and this is the next guy to get into title contention, he stumbles. But, coming off some wins over Bevan Lewis and Antonio Carlos Jr., very impressive. This could be Hall's time. If, as you said, if we see the potential that Hall has, is this the one? Is this where he puts it all together? Again, once to me, you look at, here it is, Anderson Silva has announced that this will be his last fight in the UFC and on that UFC contract. Would it shock me to see him come back? No, but we will see. Again, proving no one gets a free ride, Jordan, in the UFC. Here's potentially his last fight, and they throw him Uriah Hall. Not going to be easy. What a run. I mean, you look at what he has accomplished. To me, I one of my favorite memories to him, it seems like yesterday at UFC 126, when he destroyed Vitor Belfort with that front kick to the face. Unreal when he was in his prime. It's hard for me to fathom that he's gone 1-6-1 with that no contest in his last 8. And, the split decision victory against Derek Brunson probably should have gone the other way. So really, I mean, he hasn't had an official UFC victory since that win over Stephan Bonner. That's back in 2012. But, let's stay positive with this guy. Everything that he has accomplished. The run as middleweight king is historic. It came to an end with those 2 memorable stoppage losses in 2013 to Chris Weidman. And you mentioned those injuries. I mean, he has never been the same since that really hard to watch injury against Weidman in the second title fight. And then you think about the fact that he is 45 years old. It's been an incredible run, and Jordan, really, it's truly the end of an era. And I had the opportunity to catch up with Ed Suarez. Silva's longtime manager, who has really been with the Brazilian from day one. And Jordan, this is what he had to say about Anderson entering into the octagon one final time.
You know, it hasn't really hit me yet. I've thought about it, and but you know, just thinking back on his career, I'm just so grateful to have been along and part of the ride, and I've had some of the greatest moments in my career by his side, and I've also had some of the worst moments in my career by his side. And we've seen everything together, from him sleeping on my couch in his first trip to America to, you know, flying privately international for meetings. So, I mean, we got to experience a lot of great things together. That moment in his career when he was on top of the, you know, when he in his prime, people say, that those were crazy times. Those were a crazy moment to think about, and you know, to do what he did at in such a dominant fashion for that long, it is unheard of. It is unheard of, and I don't think there'll ever be another person like it. I know that there's been a lot of things that have tarnished his record, you know, some losses and some things, but when you think of the level of competition that he fought against, what he did, and still till the day of his last fight, the level of competition he fought, I mean, he's done some things that nobody in this sport will ever do, you know. People tend to forget. Granted, his last 8 fights he's won 6-1, you know, and I know that. But we also have to think of the type of fights that he had. You know, we have to think. You know, he just fought Israel Adesanya to a decision, and fought him probably pretty damn well in comparison to these other guys that are knocking on the door for the title. And he was 39 years old at that time.
Right.
And then you think about him fighting Dan Cormier on 48 hours notice. And, you know, some people say, oh, I didn't really train for this fight. When he said he didn't train for that fight, he really did not train for that fight. People forget that he had gallbladder surgery 50 days prior. So when he says, I didn't train for this fight, he didn't throw one kick, one punch. He accepted the fight driving from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. He accepted the fight in the car saying, okay, let's do it. I brought my mouthpiece, is what he told me. He said, I brought my mouthpiece. I said, you have nothing else? He goes, no, all I need is my mouthpiece. I can get the rest there.
You know, and no doubt he will go down in history as one of the greatest champions ever to enter into the UFC octagon. You mentioned it, as many fighters do later in their careers, has hit some difficulty, but that's part of the game. For you, how do you want Anderson to be remembered?
I want him to be remembered as one of the greatest that ever did this, you know, that ever competed in the UFC. You know, I remember he used to tell me, you know, I don't think I'm the greatest. He said, I just think I can do things people think are impossible. And I remember he'd tell me that, and the things that he would do, and sometimes, like, everybody has the same goal. Everybody, you know, you go to a fight, your goal is to win. Right. But sometimes when you sit and talk to him, and you understand why he did what he did, and then how he did it, and you just think, like, he's truly one of the guys who made MMA about martial arts. And when I think about some of the greats who have done that, like George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, the Lyoto Machidas of the world, the people that really, and Royce Gracie, that really brought the essence of martial arts into MMA, that's how I think I'd like to see him be remembered, as one of the greatest and one of the true martial arts practitioners that succeeded and held that reign for as long as he did.
Awesome, bud. Thanks, Ed. Truly, Jordan, the end of an era for everybody. Before we get to our picks, I want to get your take on really what Anderson Silva has accomplished in his time with the UFC.
I feel like Anderson Silva is truly an icon of the sport. He's one of the goats in my opinion. I mean, take away all the outside stuff, the same stuff that people will want to allege with Jones or whoever else, as it relates to some of the tests and all of that. That is what it is. Let's look at what they did at their body of work inside the octagon. I feel like there is a very large percentage of fighters and fans alike out there today who are fans because of Anderson Silva during that run. The things that you got to see, you mentioned the Rich Franklin knockout, iconic. When he came in and he fought Chris Lieben. I mean, Chris Lieben at that time was known to be the hammer of hammers. That is going to be a guy who, it doesn't matter if Chris wins or loses, that's going to be a dogfight. That's going to be someone who is going to test you for everything that you had. And Anderson went in there and he basically bankrupted some casinos at that point because they did not know how to set the line for that fight because Anderson was still relatively unknown. Joe Rogan tells this story masterfully about how he told everybody that he knew to bet every bit of expendable income that they had on Anderson in that fight because he knew that he was going to destroy him. Then you even look behind that, back the reverse elbow that he threw. Anderson was the definition of a flashy striker who just put the wow factor on performances. Anderson Silva really truly is one of the all-time greatest guys who makes a strong argument to be a part of the MMA Mount Rushmore for the length of dominance that he had when he was in that run. Obviously, absolutely. You mentioned that he's fallen on hard times, but if you stick around in this sport, aside from Khabib, who doesn't fall on hard times the longer that you stay around?
Yeah, for sure. And for me, just some of the memories of every time the Spider entered into the octagon, it was a huge fight. I mean, being at some of those events, covering it for Inside MMA back in the day, the feeling of Anderson Silva coming out and was incredible. For the Dan Henderson fight, for the Forrest Griffin fight, when he just started showing like, oh man, this is getting easy. To the fight against Chael Sonnen. What an incredible fifth round comeback that was. That place, the MGM was going insane. It was unbelievable. And then you have the rematch with Sonnen. The buildup for that one at UFC 148 was incredible. And then, of course, the fights with Weidman, he's just clowning around and taking it easy in that first fight, and it cost him. And then the buildup to the rematch where, unfortunately, Silva broke his leg in. But the buildup to every Anderson Silva fight was always huge. You knew that you were going to see something special that night, and that's something that I will never forget going into those fights. So that leads us to probably the last time that he will enter into the octagon against Uriah Hall. And let's make our picks. Our picks are, of course, sponsored by 3 a.m. Water, hydration for the go-getters. You've got to try this product. You will not regret it. 3amwater.com. Check them out for more information. All right, Jordan, we've been doing pretty well with these picks lately. Me went 2-1 last week, improving to 7-2 the past 3 weeks. Let's break it down. The odds right now, according to denversportsbetting.com and Bet Rivers going into this fight. Some money coming in on Uriah Hall now. Hall goes up to a minus 230. The comeback on Anderson Silva is plus 190. Give us your take. Who do you like in this main event, Jordan?
As much as I have the nostalgia factor, we've talked about this the last couple of weeks with some of these golden era legends that are going out or riding off into the sunset. I've got to go against it on this one. I just think that there's too many factors that are working against Anderson at this point, and there's too many things on the plus side for Uriah in this matchup. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with Uriah Hall.
Yeah, I can't blame you. Again, exactly what we've talked about the last few weeks of like betting with your heart. Don't do it. But this one's tough. The X factor coming in here is father time. The Anderson's been out of action for 18 months after what you mentioned, Jordan, suffering another leg injury caused by just the brutal kicks by Jared Cannonier. That ended his last fight. That's 18 months. But will the MMA gods shine on the former champ one more time? I mean, to be honest, Jordan, I'm a little worried, man. I'm 45 years old. He's coming into a take on a very legitimate fighter and number 10 ranked Uriah Hall. A little scary, man. I just hope that and pray that the Spider can leave the octagon, win or lose, healthy and unhurt. He's got nothing else to prove. I mean, he will be remembered as one of the most dominant champions in MMA history. I don't want to see that legacy tarnished, although there are those that will say that's too late. He's already past his prime. But you look at the guys he's fought, he doesn't get any layups. I mean, this is just what the UFC does. But can Silva do what many athletes never get the chance to do, get a win in their final fight or in their final game, and then ride off into the sunset as the hero? It's not going to be easy. Uriah Hall has really, to me, shown some flashes of brilliance throughout his career. He's just been inconsistent. Love his creative striking. He'll try to use his power and speed to really just pepper Silva with jabs and leg kicks. I think the positive for Anderson Silva is he gets to throw down Jordan with another striker. It's a good stylistic matchup for him. And if it does go to the ground, I mean, I think I give Anderson Silva a great shot to get it done there. So with that said, I'm going to take the former champion. I'm going with Anderson Silva to somehow, some way, I have no idea how, but somehow I think he's going to leave the octagon victorious for the final time. Maybe that's just my heart speaking. I don't love this bet at all, but I'm going to just go against the grain. I'm going to go with the underdog, Jordan, and take Anderson Silva.
That's the massive cojones bet of the week.
Thank you. We'll see how that turns out. Current odds of this recording from DenverSportsBetting.com and BetRivers.com. Uriah Hall is the favorite, -220. Come back on Anderson Silva, +190. Get to BetRivers.com right now and enter the promo code DSB250. DSB250, and you will earn a 100% matchup bonus up to $250. It's your chance to get into the action. BetRivers.com. Well, thanks for being a part of the DenverSportsBetting.com MMA preview show. We are sponsored by the MMA Plug. Sports betting is exploding in Colorado right now. You need to be prepared for betting previews, odds, picks. Check out DenverSportsBetting.com. Ron Kruck and Jordan Kurtz with you. I am the play-by-play man for the Legacy Fighting Alliance on UFC Fight Pass, and Jordan is one of the best journalists in Colorado covering mixed martial arts. All right. Well, Jordan, UFC on ESPN Plus 39, Hall versus Silva. We've broken down the main event as the UFC returns home to the Apex in Las Vegas. This event can be seen on ESPN Plus. Time to check out the co-main event now. I love this matchup, a pair of featherweights looking to move up in the rankings. That's the co-headliner on Halloween night when number 15 ranked rising star Bryce Mitchell, better known as Thug Nasty, squares off against Andre Touchy-Feely from Team Alpha Male. Quick breakdown, Jordan, the 30-year-old Feely, he's won 3 out of his last 4 fights and has experience on his side. He's been fighting in the UFC since 2013, nearly a year and a half before Mitchell began his professional MMA career. For me personally, I saw Mitchell fight on the prelims of the RFA versus Legacy event. That was back in 2015. He got his second pro victory. It was a first round rear naked choke win over Jesse Sanderson that night. And since then, I mean, he's won 13 straight. Most MMA fans probably remember Mitchell on the undefeated season of Tough when he submitted Matt Sales via the rarely seen twister, only the second time the move has been pulled off in UFC history. That sure got the attention of UFC brass that night. All right. The co-main event breakdown is sponsored by the 3070 Sports Bar and Grill located in Westminster, Colorado. Go check them out today. You won't regret it. It's an awesome place to hang out. Make sure you try their Golfer's Delight. They also have 420 Vegas bombs. That's the 3070 Sports Bar and Grill located on West 120th Ave in Westminster. All right. The current odds for this co-main event coming in from denversportsbetting.com and betrivers.com. Bryce Mitchell is your favorite, Jordan, minus 150, and Andre Fili is at plus 130. New bettors, get to betrivers.com right now. Sign up and enter the promo code DSB 250. That's Denver Sports Betting 250. Get a 100% matchup bonus up to $250. That's betrivers.com. All right, Jordan, let's get your take. Break down this key featherweight matchup for us.
First and foremost, I love this matchup, plain and simple. I mean, Sean Shelby knocked it out of the park with this one.
I agree.
Now, Andre Fili, love him. You know, he's an incredible human being. I've had the opportunity to meet him and be in the training room with him in the past. He's a very genuine human being, and he's as game as it gets. As you mentioned, he has a long-standing history already in the UFC. All you have to do is look at his resume and pull his catalog. The receipts are right there to show you that Andre Touchy Fili is as tough as it gets, and he's going to be the toughest test so far of Thug Nasty's career. Now, if you want me to show or, kind of give you my hand on where I'm leaning in this one, notice how Bryce Mitchell made the big announcement, and he had the incredible interview bit about the violence that he was going to bring to everybody surrounding the cage if he did not get his camo.
Right.
So, I'm a huge Bryce Mitchell fan. I just love how he is. I kind of call him the redneck Yusuf because he just has zero filter at any time. And he is that loud guy in the room that whenever he's around, you know that he is there. Yeah. And so I love Bryce Mitchell. I love the personality. I think that he's scrappy and he's game wherever it goes. But on the ground, that man is a real threat. I think that he has some of the best jiu-jitsu as far as any of the rising contenders. We already know the guys who are your well-known threats on the ground, those Matt Sharks that are going to take you into deep water, your Oliveras, your Mayas, your those guys of the world. I think that Bryce Mitchell is one of a couple of guys within this next wave of talent that is going to cement himself as being one of the best jiu-jitsu players in all of MMA.
Well, you have to have a big personality, Jordan, to have the nickname Thug Nasty. I mean, that doesn't work for
a
me.
white guy.
I try that. I'm getting beat up on the corner. There's no doubt about it. I like Mitchell a lot too. Both of these guys. I'm with you. This should be a lot of fun. Mitchell coming in 13-0, but I think this is the real true test for the 26-year-old. Fili will be the most accomplished UFC opponent that he has faced yet. He's shined so far since coming off the Ultimate Fighter, getting wins over Bobby Moffitt, an LFA vet that I know well. He's very tough. The Twister win over Sales, as I said, and most recently that really dominant unanimous decision victory over Charles Rosa back in May. A win makes Mitchell go from that prospect to a true contender that people need to realize. For Fili, listen, this guy has been doing a long time cornerstone of that Team Alpha Male group, has 28 career fights, 15 of those in the UFC. He's faced some of the sport's best, including Max Holloway, Qatar, Michael Johnson, just to name a few, but he's lost those fights. He has wins over some big names like Miles Jury and Dennis Bermudez, but you know, this is at this point in his career, you know, he has to look at this fight as the opportunity to take out a top prospect, you know, move into the rankings again, and maybe make a run at, you know, the top 10. You know, if he gets a win, that would definitely make a case for him. But it's one of those gatekeepers versus top prospects matchups, and it should be a lot of fun. Let's make our picks. The pick is sponsored by 3 a.m. Water, hydration for the go-getters. Try this product. You're not going to regret it. Check them out at 3amwater.com for more information. All right, co-main event, Mitchell and Feely. Jordan, who you got?
Whole nutsack, no nutsack. I don't give a damn. Give me Thug Nasty in this matchup. For those of you who know Bryce Mitchell's background, you will know exactly what I'm talking about.
100%. Yep, I get it. Listen, for me, I think the veteran Feely, unfortunately, is going to keep that role as the gatekeeper at 145. This is a big opportunity for Mitchell to get a win over a tough name opponent, prove he's ready to make that next step up. You know, I think Feely's an underrated grappler. You know, he uses good movement, fluid striking, but sometimes he gets wild, and I think that's going to cost him in this one. It'll leave him open for counters and takedowns from Mitchell. I see Thug Nasty dominating the clinch, setting up takedowns, and then going to work from the top. So I'm with you. I'm going to take Mitchell to remain unbeaten and finish Feely. Current odds of this recording from denversportsbetting.com and betrivers.com. Bryce Mitchell, undefeated. He is the favorite at -150. And the comeback on Andre Feely, changing a little bit. We started open at a +130. He's now down to a +120. Get to betrivers.com and sign up as a new member. Enter the promo code DSB250, and they will give you a 100% matchup bonus up to $250. Check them out, betrivers.com. We appreciate you being a part of the denversportsbetting.com MMA preview show. We are sponsored by the MMA Plug. Jordan Kurtz and Ron Kruck with you. We've broken down the main event and the co-main event for this UFC on ESPN Plus 39 card, Hall versus Silva. Point in the show where we turn the spotlight on a fight or fighter that we are keeping an eye on. I love this card, Jordan. For me personally, incredible. The main card, there are 5 former LFA fighters on that main card and a total of 11 Legacy Fighting Alliance alumni on this card. It's insane. It's why the LFA is the true feeder league into the UFC. I know you've got some ties on this card too, so we will turn it over to you. Who are you keeping an eye on this card?
So I've got 2 guys that I would like to put the spotlight on, and they're for 2 very different reasons. One of them, you know, 9 years ago, almost to the date, a young Dustin Jacoby made his debut in the UFC.
Heck yeah.
Now, he was a young kid who was very early into his training, and that was, if you put the timeline together, that was essentially when a guy who you're very close to, with Pat Miletich, Dustin has some ties to that old hit squad camp. That's when essentially when Matt Hughes was on his way out and Dustin was just barely getting going with his career. And then when it went from Matt to Finney's hit squad at that point, then that's kind of where Dustin was at the UFC. So it wasn't the most ideal of times when he got there because he was so young and so raw. But ever since that point when he left the UFC, he's fought in Bellator, he's excelled to the highest of highs in the kickboxing world, and has been a Glory Tournament champion on a couple of different occasions. He has won other fight tournaments out there. If you want to talk about the definition of a gamer, that is the Hanyak Dustin Jacoby. He was a collegiate quarterback. You want to talk about a guy who is he's a gamer. It doesn't matter what you do. You put him in any sort of arena, you put him on the golf course, he's going to compete. Put him on the basketball court, he's going to compete. Dustin Jacoby is a competitor. He will make any fight that he is in competitive, and he has a style that is electric for the fans. He's going to throw flying knees. He's going to throw elbows. He's going to be dynamic with his attack, and that is exactly what I expect him to bring to Justin Ledet on Saturday. The other guy that I want to put the spotlight on is Alexander the Great Hernandez. Now, this is the first fight that Alex Hernandez has had since switching camps. He has now switched up to training underneath the tutelage of Coach Mark Montoya out here at Factory X. Alex is a very, very high-level athlete. I think that now we're finally seeing the pieces come together to where you're matching the mentality with the physical tools, and we're going to see basically Alexander the Great 2.0 coming out there against Grits on Saturday night. It's no disrespect to Grits by any means, but he's had more than 2 years off and away from the cage. I just do not think that he has anything that he brings to the octagon that can beat Alex in any sort of capacity. He can't box with him. He can't wrestle with him. And to say that he's going to out-scramble him, I just don't see it.
Two great picks for sure, guys to keep an eye on. I love Dustin Jacoby. That guy is as fun as they get. Greatest story with Glory Kickboxing, when he just, before he was a kickboxer, when he was pulled into the tournament in Oklahoma with the Glory Super Fight Series, and he goes in and wins 3 matches, and people are like, who the heck is this guy? Where did he come from? And then he evolves into, as you said, a premier kickboxer and competed against some of the best in the world in Glory. I think you add that back to his arsenal. Look out, as he's now full-time back in MMA. Love those 2 fights. I'm looking myself, Jordan, at 2 LFA super fights. I told you 11 former LFA fighters on this card, and we have 2 matchups or super fights between 2 of the veterans. Kicking off the night, Miles Johns and Kevin Natividad. I think this is going to be an insane fight. And then the heavyweights, we got the former NFL Pro Bowler Greg Hardy taking on the crochet boss Maurice Green. Yes, I do personally own a hat made by the crochet boss. It's pretty, should have broke it out. You got the beanie going. I should have wore it this week. But I love these 2. Johns versus Natividad. In a way, I'm almost sad to see those 2 guys fighting, because they are 2 of the bantamweight division's top prospects, in my opinion. Combined 19-2 record. A win will build themselves really toward the top end of that division. Arizona Combat Sports product Kevin Natividad making his UFC debut against Fortis MMA's Miles Johns. I mean, these 2 gyms are incredible, and I love to see the matchup. And what's kind of cool about this too, Jordan, is these 2 are the older brothers of current LFA stars, Christian Natividad, who is undefeated since turning pro and been killing his opponents here in the LFA. And of course, Elijah Johns, who is 7-1, and that kid's won 5 straight. 2 guys to keep an eye on, Christian Natividad and Elijah Johns here in the LFA. But going to be a great way to kick off this card, Kevin Natividad and Miles Johns. I think that's going to be an awesome fight. And then that lone heavyweight matchup on this card with Greg Hardy and Mo Green, 2 guys who just flat out love to stand and bang. And I don't think either of them has landed or scored a single takedown since they've been in the UFC. So they're going to come out firing. For this one, I've seen Mo Green dropped before. He'll eat punches more than the average fighter. I think that could be a costly difference in this fight. A lot on the odds are pretty big on Greg Hardy right now. He comes in at a -335 favorite. Come back on Mo Green plus 250 for the Pirate. I like Greg Hardy money line bet on this, but should be a lot of fun when 2 heavyweights with that power step into the octagon, Jordan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I again have a close personal connection with Mo. Mo was somebody that I've spent time on the mats with directly. I've shot content with. I've been around Mo a considerable amount. We've hung out outside of the gym.
Yeah.
I know that Greg Hardy is a fight that not a lot of guys are willing to take, just because he is that unknown commodity out there as far as kind of the hype factor. And if you're a known guy and you drop that one, well, then you're going to kind of tumble down in the pecking order. But then it's also that weird sort of dynamic to where if you do get one over on him, well, that's what you should have done. So Mo is in a very, very tough position as a whole, just from the business standpoint. I think that it's a very tough position that he's in with taking this matchup.
Yeah.
I think that Mo has to come out there and he has to bring it, because when we've talked about some other football players or guys who had collegiate football history in the past and being able to deal with big bodies and the punishment and all of that, none of them have the football background that Greg Hardy does.
No.
Let's make this be clear. If Greg Hardy did not have his off-the-field transgressions, Greg Hardy would still be in an NFL uniform making millions of dollars every single Sunday when he plays. That is the caliber, that is the level of athlete that Greg Hardy is. He's just not a refined mixed martial artist at this point. He is a guy who just happens to be big, mean, gritty, and tough, and has figured out a way to parlay his athleticism into this world because he is that elite of an athlete. Mo needs to bring everything on all cylinders. He's gone down to Jackson Wink, where he's been able to train with a lot more heavyweights. There's a lot of heavyweights and big bodies in his camp that he can work with on a daily basis. He's gonna need to tap into that experience to go up against a guy like Greg Hardy. Because if it gets into, Mo has some solid grappling, but that doesn't matter if you have a guy who is just gonna use just pure raw strength just to hold you in some spots. So Mo is going to have to be on point. He's going to need to be creative, and he has to be smart about the way that he chooses to engage, because Greg has that sort of strength that he doesn't need to get you solid to put you in a bad position.
Good breakdown for sure. He probably is the most elite athlete in MMA right now, Greg Hardy, just from a sheer athleticism point of view, and still, as you mentioned, kind of a wild card. He's still very new to this game and continues to evolve. Should be an interesting matchup. I would say maybe Herschel Walker is the only other NFL player that proved that they could compete in this sport, but Hardy is probably facing tougher talent than Herschel Walker ever did. Should be a lot of fun as the heavyweights go at it, Greg Hardy and the Pirate Mo Green. So that's going to do it for another Denver Sports Betting MMA preview show sponsored by the MMA Plug. Stick around, folks. We got some big news to announce with Denver Radio and this show, so we will let you in on that news as soon as we can. But the Denver Sports Betting MMA preview show continues to evolve, and we couldn't do it without you. Jordan, awesome job as always, buddy. Enjoy the fights this weekend.
Absolutely. You the same, my man.
Okay. All right. Hey, and remember, get to betrivers.com now. Sign up, and they will match whatever you put in up to $250. betrivers.com. Use the promo code DSB250, Denver Sports Betting 250, and they'll hook you up. Also, hook us up on, talk to us on social media. I am at Kruck on Twitter. Jordan is at Peanut Podcast and at Betting Denver. And if you like Instagram, they are at Denver Sports Betting. Comments from the Peanut Gallery and Krucker7. For my partner, Jordan Kurtz, I'm Ron Kruck. Enjoy the fights, everyone. That is all.